Alright guys, TacticalRabbit here, and today I wanted to talk about Ban and Protect. It was there in Black Ops 3, it doesn't seem like it's coming back for Black Ops 4, it definitely wasn't the perfect system by any means, but I wanted to discuss maybe what changes we could see or could potentially make to the Ban and Protect system to actually make it viable and add something to the competitive experience as we have it now. But firstly, I just wanted to say thanks for all this support on the videos recently. They've been doing crazy in terms of views, which I didn't really think would happen since the Rostermania stuff died down. Obviously, videos like this with just slightly more thoughts-based rather than news-based will not do as well, but I'm still going to try and make 2 videos or a video every 2 days. So hopefully I can keep that up for the foreseeable future at least. So like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. And let's talk about Ban and Protect here. So it came into the game in Black Ops 3. Treyarch, effectively, it was their way of saying, we don't need to ban anything. We can make competitive as close to the casual as possible, and then all we'll have to do is put Ban and Protect in the game, and then the pros will get rid of the stuff that they don't want to play with. It literally takes 5 seconds of thinking to look at that model and say, well, what if a lower tier team just protects the UAV, and then all of a sudden we're playing a completely different game with very many uncompetitive features in it. So fortunately, Treyarch got rid of that ideal that they would just keep everything allowed and Ban and Protect would solve all their problems. They got rid of that relatively quickly. The UAV was gone, you know, all the other stupid stuff was gone, like, you know, Claymores, Bettys, or whatever was in that game. Shock charges, stuff like that. So the game was actually reasonable to be played without Ban and Protect, but there still were certain things that should have been banned. For example, Sixth Sense was not banned in like Arena, which is the competitive, like the league play system. It wasn't banned in Arena for ages. A ridiculous perk, of course, and then Awareness, which gave you superhuman hearing, that was never banned in Arena, so people would have to ban it out, and sometimes you'd play and someone would protect it first of all, and it completely ruins Search and Destroy, in that you have to completely change your classes up, and because it's a perk that has such a big impact on the game that you don't expect to be playing within a competitive environment. So it definitely wasn't good for league play. The amount of times you'd go into Arena and like you'd sit through the Ban and Protect, you'd have to do the specialist draft, and everyone spends 90 seconds changing their classes because people have banned some wacky stuff. Then someone leaves on the other team, and either then you're playing 4v3 and the game ends quicker than it took to do the entire Ban and Protect, or you get a situation where the lobby just crashes and you have to start again. So it was horrible for competitive league play. I feel like if we're going to do a Ban and Protect and we want the pros to do the same as what we play in league play, which I think should be the case, then we have to tone it down to a significant extent. So firstly, let's talk about some of the good things. It definitely created a lot of variety in the game. Black Ops 3's gun balance, especially in terms of the assault rifles, was already really good. I want to do a separate video on talking exactly why Black Ops 3's gun balance was so good. The M8 was used, the Shiva was used, quite often banned in Ban and Protect, but still used if it was available on maps like Fringe. The Man of War was super prominent, maybe the best assault rifle in the entire game. The HVK came out a lot as well. The XR2 was used when the M8 was banned, and some players even preferred the XR2 because you could hold down the trigger and it would keep on firing. The KN wasn't really used that much, but basically every other assault rifle was used at one point or another. And different maps determined what weapons people would use. On this map, Evac, the HVK was really common. The Man of War was used on slightly bigger maps. Breach, for example, you'd often see a Man of War, an M8, maybe an HVK pulled out. Ban and Protect wasn't really necessary for variety per se, but definitely in a game like Black Ops 4, where as it seems, the Sorg is the only really viable SMG, the Maddox is just the do-it-all K-bar gun from Infinite Warfare, and then you have the ICR as your NV4 type assault rifle. So it's going to be a similar situation to Infinite Warfare, it seems, when the majority of people are using the K-bar. There's a few niches where people are using Sorgs, and if buffs come into play, probably more and more throughout the end of the year. And then the NV4, the ICR in this game, is used quite a lot as well. But you're not going to see a crazy gun balance, as far as I can see right now, than we had in Black Ops 3. So maybe Ban and Protect could do something to add a little bit of spice to the game, because Ban and Protect happens in, okay, say League of Legends, right? They ban out the champions. Now, I equate the champions to the weapons in Call of Duty. Now, you could maybe equate them to specialists. You could ban out champions that the other team is very good with, or one of their players is particularly good with. Similar sort of thing with the weaponry. You know, you're playing against Formal, you probably don't want him having the M8. And that means that from his perspective, he's got to practice with multiple different weapons in practice and be really good with more than just one assault rifle, which I feel like is a good thing for the competitive scene in terms of practice, that pros should have to be good on more maps. The problem really with World War II is that I like map vetoes. Maybe I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but I like map vetoes, but the fact that we only had 3 maps for CTF meant that teams really only had to practice like 2 because they could permaban one of them. And I like the fact that a pro team should have to be very good at a lot of maps, even if vetoes are still in play. At least they should have a lot of maps though, which maybe they choose one to permanently ban, or it's probably better not to permanently ban one so you can get a better matchup against your enemy. But if that's the case, it also makes sense that pros should be good with multiple different weapons as well. And if ban and protect is in play, it meant that pros had to practice with different weapons and get comfortable with different weapons depending on how the situation went. And I think that created a really interesting environment when like Killer's team, Dream Team, was known for being really good with the Man of War. So they would often protect it first pick so no one got rid of it, and then they would abuse that in the series, exploit their advantage in that sense. Now we can talk about the problems. Obviously there was the issues with banning things all the time. High caliber and rapid fire were never banned. For some reason in this ban and protect here, I don't know, maybe this is quite early on in the game, but rapid fire wasn't actually banned here. Let's have a look at Call of Duty Gamepedia, which incredibly these guys managed to record a lot of the ban and protect through the Black Ops 3 season. This is from Group B at Champs. Look at these bans. First of all, the first thing you'll notice is that basically everyone is banning stuff rather than protecting stuff. Now, okay, protecting maybe is an okay feature, but I'm thinking maybe you just get rid of it entirely and the option to ban remains, because my problem with being able to protect is that especially in a 1-year life cycle, the game is not going to be fully balanced. There's definitely things that are too strong, definitely things that probably aren't fit for competitive play, like I talked about in my rule set video very recently. So if you give a lower tier team the opportunity to protect something which is pretty ridiculous, or for that matter ban something which completely affects the way the game is played, which we'll talk about in a second, then that creates problems for the top teams because they're playing a very different game to what they're used to. That's what happened in Black Ops 3 a lot, where lower tier teams would take advantage of some randomness that they could create in the ban and protect system, which I don't think should be the case. Banning weapons and the like is absolutely fine. Pro teams should be good with multiple weapons, but being able to ban crucial perks or protect things which are very questionable in competitive play, such as something like high caliber, then I think you have problems of consistency and making sure the best team's always winning on your hands. So the bans almost always come into play. The RCXD was almost always banned in respawn modes, high caliber rapid fire almost always went, concussion and flashbangs went quite a lot unless they were protected. The Man of War goes here, and overclock and heatwave were also very common bans as well. And you'll see as you look through these, I'll bring another one up in a second, very common the stuff that's banned. This was the hardpoint bans, these were the search and destroy bans. I think it's got to be some sort of mistake here because it says that they banned overkill twice. Overkill this year in the rule set is already banned, and they've banned a lot of stuff that you could already this year that makes me think that ban and protect won't be coming back, because high caliber and rapid fire this year are already banned. I saw a really interesting post on Reddit about why rapid fire maybe shouldn't be banned, because it actually gives the SMGs an opportunity to compete with the assault rifles, because most of the ARs don't even have rapid fire available on their weapons, which I think is a reasonable idea. You could say that, okay, then rapid fire is going to be a crutch attachment on the SMGs, but let's be honest, everyone already uses quick draw stock grip on their SMGs, so what are you really saying about crutch attachments? But this is one of the examples I'm talking about here. Look at this Hyper Games versus Supremacy matchup. I believe Hyper Games was definitely the expected victor, given their success in Stage 2 of the Global Pro League. Supremacy, they ban Afterburner and they ban Fast Hands. Fast Hands was the equivalent of the Dexterity in Black Ops 2, where you can bring your gun up quicker after sprinting. And they banned Afterburner as well, which completely changed the way that the movement worked in the game. This series was so different to what you would practice in. You don't practice using ban and protect in scrims or anything like that. You just use a generic rule set, and having Fast Hands, which is an important perk, and Afterburner especially, which as I say completely changes the way the movement works in the game. Being able to change the pace of the game and create those inconsistencies against a better opponent in the ban and protect system is something that I didn't like in Black Ops 3 and happened a lot with the lower tier guys. Now obviously there were some base bans that we saw an awful lot, so here again LG versus Mindfreak. Mindfreak protect the flashbang, right? Something that's usually banned without a second thought, but Mindfreak being the underdog in this match that will protect the flashbang, and then we'll have to play with something that LG won't necessarily be used to playing with. Now I think in this situation with weapons and equipments, I think that's relatively reasonable, but when you can do a perk, for example, people are used to ban Afterburner and Blast Suppressor say, it makes it impossible able to use the advanced movement anymore, really, because if you jump at all, you'll show up on the minimap. Say on a map like Evac, the lower tier teams would quite often ban out Blast Suppressor and Afterburner. You'd basically be playing a completely different game where you can't even use the wall runs because you're going to be spotted on the minimap, and it creates a lot of inconsistency for the best teams and also for fans alike. If Ban and Protect was going to be brought back for the sake of introducing variety, I did find a little bit of a contradiction in Black Ops 3 where we didn't have map vetoes, where you could choose to pick and ban maps, but you had it for everything else in the game. So if we're going to have pick and ban for maps, maybe it would make sense to also have this kind of system. And while the pick ban for maps may create a situation where you see less maps in play, the ban and protect for weaponry and equipment would make it where you see more things in play depending on which team is good with whatever weapon, which I think creates a better experience for the fans, but obviously you don't want to go too far to the point where it's creating inconsistencies and reducing the competitive integrity of the game, which I think it did in Black Ops 3. If it was to come back, what do we do? The first issue was the cumbersome nature of this. The fact that you had to do this pick ban for every single map in the series was incredibly tiresome, and also the changing class situation. I think overall I would not want it brought back just for the fact that if we had it in league play, even if we dulled it down to say, one of my thinkings was that maybe each team only gets 2 bans rather than every single player getting a ban. Of course, nowadays if you do every single player, then there's 10 things going off the map. I was thinking maybe if each team has 2 pick bans, but even then, if they ban something a little bit wacky, or if they ban a very common weapon that's used, like the Maddox for example, basically everyone has to change a lot of their classes, and it creates a lot of delay and slows down the competitive experience for people trying to play league play. So overall, I don't think it's a good idea, but in terms of how enjoyable the game is to watch, and maybe even increasing the variety and also increasing the strategy, and that teams can take advantage of their advantages in being good with certain weapons or equipment. One idea I was thinking of was if you do bring back Ban and Protect, maybe you get rid of the ability to ban perks entirely. This definitely would have helped in Black Ops 3, preventing people from changing the game significantly. In Black Ops 4, perks aren't very good. Maybe they'll get a little bit better down the line, but the fact that someone could ban Flak Jacket and then just bombard you with grenades, once again, you're playing a very different game to what you're used to. So one thing I was considering was maybe give each team 2 bans. In this game, the base bans, in terms of the attachments, say, are relatively good. You know, High Caliber's gone. As I say, Rapid Fire maybe shouldn't be gone, but at least High Caliber's gone, and another couple of perks have gone as well. And flashbangs and concussions aren't as big of a factor in this game because they charge up on a timer, rather than in World War II or previous games where as soon as you spawn in you get one, so you're effectively rewarded for dying to some extent. Whereas in this game that's not the case, which I think is a good change. So I was thinking maybe you just do 1 ban and protect for the entire series. So mostly what happens is people will maybe ban out an equipment, or maybe they'll ban out a weapon that the enemy team is very good at using, and then it reduces the length of time we have to wait watching and waiting for all these things to go on behind the scenes, but it does create a little bit more variety. But at the same time, if you do a ban and protect for the entire series of a best of 5, you try and translate that into league play where people are playing single matches, then you have some problems on your hands. So I hope I brought some things up that you guys may not have considered. I think overall I prefer it not to come back, but I'll be interested to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, because I have been hearing some discussion that people are considering maybe Ban and Protect would be a good addition to future Call of Duties, more in line with what we see in other esports titles, especially ones that have a lot of different variables in the characters and etc that you can use. And I'm sure if we did bring in Ban and Protect, we'd see a lot of the specialists being banned out as well. And maybe Treyarch doesn't like that so much, so I don't think it's going to come back. I don't think I want it to come back just for the sake of league play, but for a competitive experience and for the fan situation, it may be a slight improvement. If you guys have any cool ideas as to how this could potentially be adapted to work better for every party, then I'd be interested to hear them. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.